Lots of people talk about chasing their dreams, but how many actually do it? Welcome to the Pursue Your Passion podcast with Tyler Kammerman. We're going to introduce you to people who are intentionally pursuing their passion every day. Through their stories of success and their struggles, you'll gain insight into how to better begin or continue your journey. Now here's Tyler with today's guest.
Hey, all you passion pursuers. Welcome back to the Pursue Your Passion podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Kammerman. And on the show today, I am excited to introduce you to Nick Lenters. Nick is the owner and founder of Old Station Craft Meats. They are a neighborhood butcher shop in Waukee, Iowa that sources meat from local farmers. So especially if you grew up in a small town, maybe in the city, not so much. You don't have a memory of the small town butcher shop, but that is what they are working to emulate, and they are doing a fantastic job of it. Nick lives in Waukee, happily married to his wife Susan, and their two sons, Gavin and Liam. Nick, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tyler.
It is Susan and not Suzanne, right?
It's Suzanne.
Right after I said it, I'm like, nope, it's Suzanne. I'm sorry, Suzanne. I'm guessing you're going to listen to this, and my apologies. But I did catch it in my brain right as I said it.
We'll give you credit for that.
Yeah. At least I asked, right? I asked. So welcome, Nick. Good to see you. Good to have you on the show. I can attest to the quality of the meats because I grilled a couple ribeyes a couple weeks ago. And I think I told you, but my kids who are typically like, I'll just have a hot dog when dad's cooking a steak, which blows my mind. I did those cowboy cuts and my son was like, this is the greatest steak I've ever had in my life. I'm like, okay, well,
Great.
We found the steak that I'm going to grill for Ian when I want to have a ribeye.
Yeah, awesome.
So, Nick, I know you started your career in, more the corporate world, but tell us about the passion that you're pursuing. Tell us about Old Station Craft Meats.
Sure. It started years before, as most businesses do, and it started really oddly with my brother and I. We somehow ended up owning one cow together, and
Okay.
it was that's a different story about how we got this one cow, but it was fun to just like talk about the cow, and we're like, oh, we should add more cows, and so we started assembling this small herd of cattle, and we found that we were connecting more often on the phone, and when I'd go back home, he would show us how the cattle were doing and his plans for caring for them, and it was really fun, and we really connected on that. But after a while, I started to feel like I was just a financial partner in it, and he was doing all the work, and I'm like, how can I contribute to this relationship more? And I had also at the same time started following some really cool craft butcher shops out in New York and in Denver. And it occurred to me that was a way that I could contribute to the relationship, was the marketing of the beef side of it. So I actually pitched the idea to some friends and family about starting a craft butcher shop, and everybody's kind of, I didn't get any real strong feedback on it, but I was having breakfast with my dad one morning and I pitched the idea to him, and he gave me, he was a big fan of it, but I said, Dad, I don't know anything, I love to smoke meat, grill steaks. I love that side of it. But I'm like, I don't really know. I'm not a butcher. I don't know how to do this. He's like, well, he gave me a challenge. He's like, well, do you know anybody in the industry? And I knew my brother-in-law is really good friends with a guy who owns a butcher shop. So he's like, I challenge you to 2 weeks to call that guy or somebody else in the industry. So I did that, and that just led to more phone calls and more phone calls. And I started to get a better feel for it. I felt like I had a good network of people that had the skills or resources to help me get started. And so that's kind of how it went.
Nice. So it's interesting to me because a lot of the people that I talked to, there was like this burning passion that they had to chase. And this is a little bit more of, you have a farming back, you and your brother grew up on a farm.
Yep.
And so you had that in common, and started this relationship where you started, raising cattle together, and this came, I don't want to say from a sense of obligation, but it was more like, hey, I can't help Adam do this How can I bring what I already know to the table?
Right. Well, and it wasn't like I felt bad for him that I wasn't
No.
helping, but it was more like, hey, I like this. I like how we're connecting. And I saw that the business was a way to connect with more people. Because, like, a little side story is I grew up on a farm, but my dad was also a local business owner. And,
Right.
and I worked in that business with my dad. And prior to opening the butcher shop, I was a consultant, right? So I spent all my days on my computer or traveling, and that there's no way for me to connect with my family. So that was another side benefit of starting this business was, hey, I have the opportunity to work with my immediate family. So my wife works there and my two sons, they work a couple days a week. And it's just a great way to connect with them and also just to I think that's really where kids learn is real world experience, like
Absolutely.
showing my kids like here's how you greet customers and how you follow up with a customer and like they balance the register at the end of the day. So there's always these really real world skills that they're learning while we get to do it all together as a family. And that was another piece that was really interesting to me.
Yeah, that's great. So it started with that connection with your brother, right?
Yep.
Now it's turned into Suzanne works there. You mentioned your sons work there. Like when at the beginning of this, when this was a brainchild still, obviously you mentioned it right away, hey, that I see this as a way to have more time with Adam. Did you kind of have the foresight that this would become a family thing, or was that not necessarily part of it at the beginning?
Absolutely. I thought it was going to be a family thing. And that's just because of my experience
Right.
growing up in a family that had a small business. I knew that was going to be an element of it. So that was from the beginning a part of the strategy.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love that. Because again, that's not a part that I've heard a lot,
Right.
where the family is able to get involved. I mean, I think that's one of the unique things about kind of more the customer service side of things that you're doing. And I love that you're talking about, you can teach them the customer service side. How do you greet somebody? How can you follow up with them? But then also this is the opportunity to teach them how to balance the books, not just your personal books. Like that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, there's challenges in it too. I
I'm
think that
sure.
that's another just kind of indirect benefit where they get to see us like my wife and I like, hey, there's these challenges that we have. Like life doesn't always go the way you expect it to, and so
Sure.
how do you respond to those? And they get to see that too, and see, oh, how did mom and dad handle that situation?
Right, right.
So
Those are massive life lessons that you're able to teach in a practical manner. Like
right.
that's fantastic. You mentioned that your dad challenged you, to do that. And was that new, or is that something that your dad has kind of done, throughout your upbringing? Like that just stuck out to me in that story, like that your dad was like, "Hey, I challenge you to do this."
I don't know if he's really ever had a direct challenge like that, but he's always been an encourager, someone who's always checking in on my family, my brother's family, like how you doing with this? And so I feel like it's kind of in that vein of just being an encourager for life and for family and for relationships. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
You mentioned working in the family business growing up. In addition to that, how has your first I'm trying to do quick math, but your first 10 or 15 years or 20 years of working, how did that prepare you for this step?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting transition. I don't think a lot of people make the kind of move that I've made. I've gone from, stereotypical white collar job to more of a skilled labor blue collar job.
Right.
But and I think about that. I think about these people and I'm like the experience that I have of, I have a a business degree, an MBA, and I use a lot of those skills to launch this
I'm
business,
sure.
to manage the finances, to get to because we've had to apply. I write my own grant applications. We've been benefactors of a grant program. Um, yeah, it's challenging, and I certainly would not be doing as good a job as I am. Not trying to pat myself on the back by any means. But if I didn't have that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Let's go back even a little bit further. And I'm always interested to, when I'm talking with people, to find out kind of what were your dreams as a kid, or what did 7 or 10-year-old Nick want to be when he grew up?
I don't think I knew. I don't know. It's kind of come full circle. I find like a lot of things I said as a kid, I'm like eating my words now as an adult. It's like I always, when I was in high school and I worked construction, like I worked concrete construction for a while. I did roofing and stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is motivation to go to college and get a college degree and a desk job, and
Because it's hard work.
yeah, because it's hard work. And I did, the corporate thing for, 19 years or whatever, and really there is some satisfaction in more physical labor that you don't get in corporate world. Like when I was in my office job, you'd sit back in the day and you're like, what did I really do today? Right? We're here. It's like, we made 400 pounds of sausage today. We sold this number. We interacted with this number of customers who are satisfied with their experience.
Yeah.
And then at the day, we got to clean the whole kitchen out. We get it clean. It looks spick and span like it did in the morning when we started. And there's some satisfaction in that. And it just feels more like a team effort too. I feel like in corporate America, you say it's a team, but feel like it's a lot of people operating in silos for an end product. But here we literally have to help each other. Like sometimes there's like when we're bringing in a whole beef and you got to lift a 250-pound quarter beef, you literally have to teamwork up on that thing to get it on the boning table.
Right,
cut it
right.
up. And so I appreciate that too. Like it's hard work, but it kind of gives me warm fuzzies when we've got our whole crew in there and we're all like working on our thing. I really appreciate that and respect. That's something when I was doing the roofing job on the concrete, and I was like, man, this is hot outside. I'm sweating. This is hard work. I didn't fully appreciate then.
Right. Which, if you went back and did it now, number one, you probably wouldn't be able to walk for a week because your body's not used to it. But I think you would. I think about, because you mentioned roofing and concrete, and I'm like, yep, I remember those days.
Did we work concrete together?
At
Van Voorst?
Van Voorst.
Yeah.
Was that after your junior year of high school?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did work together that summer.
Yeah.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, a long time ago.
That was hard work.
Yeah, it was.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So I forgot to mention at the beginning, Nick and I both grew up in Sioux Center. So, we think we...
Was I not supposed to mention that?
No. I love that there's that connection. We actually grew up in the same church. We've probably known each other since we were like before kindergarten, actually. Great memory. Gosh, I forgot who I all worked with that summer. But yeah, I think I think about it now, and I love that you're experiencing that with your team. But I think about that now and how that team worked. And being the grunts, number one, we weren't even paying attention to that. But think about some of the amount of concrete that we poured in a day. Like everybody had to do their part in order to get it done. So I think that's a great analogy.
I think the other thing that I'm realizing through it is, like thinking about the pandemic and the people that we lost in the pandemic, a lot of it was just due to poor health.
Yeah.
Right. And this line of work is showing me how out of shape I am. Like the first couple of months doing this, like I would get home at 6:00 and I would just drop on the couch and I was done for the day. Right. And it's steadily my body's adapted, and like I've started to make other changes too, like in my diet, and I'm doing the 5 a.m. club thing where I'm getting up at 5 a.m, lifting 3 times a week.
Nice.
Not that I have to, but I think it's just a good thing to do.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I have slacked a bit since it's gotten a little colder. Actually, I've slacked a lot this year, but I've slacked even further the last couple weeks because I was at least getting up and walking and or jogging in the morning. And I can feel it even just this week. I'm more lethargic. Like I don't have the energy that I get. So I'm with you on the morning workout.
I think all around it's just made me a healthier person even in like my relationship with my family, like when you manage employees, there's this delicate balance between uh, having them do the right thing, doing a good job, but also, wanting them to enjoy that job and stay with you. And that was one thing I realized, like, hey, I take my marriage to my wife for granted sometimes. Like, I need to be speaking to her more like I am speaking to my employees. Like, we have to live together, so we have to work together, but also you want her to enjoy this marriage and want to stay and be part of it. So,
Touche.
yeah.
Very good point. So you mentioned the team. Tell me a little bit about how that's grown. I mean, I'm guessing I'm looking at employee number one. How did that grow into where it is? Walk us to where you are today.
We started off with me and two guys that had some butchering experience.
Sure.
And one of them, after just a couple of months, decided it wasn't for him. He was more like a locker butcher guy, and this was more retail focused. And so
Sure.
it was kind of a mutual separation.
Sure.
But the first year was pretty tough, just work-wise. It was just me and Calvin, and then I have another friend who's kind of a stay-at-home dad, and I asked, we were kind of needing help, and I'm like, hey, could you fill in?
Another Sioux Center native,
yeah.
for those keeping track.
Yeah, so he came on board, and I was expecting that just to be temporary, just help me get by this time, and he really started appreciating the work too, and was like, no, I kind of like this. And so I was like, oh, do you want to stay on? He's like, yeah, as long as you can keep my hours flexible, because he's a stay-at-home dad. And so he's been there ever since too. And actually, I think all of our employees are people that came to us that wanted to work for us.
Nice.
So that's kind of a cool thing too, that people were interested in our business. And we've actually had, two people leave. And then one of them came back. And another one wanted to come back, but we were full staffed by then.
Yeah.
So that's like really rewarding to me too. That
Absolutely.
we've created an environment where people want to work.
There.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
That's something I couldn't have anticipated. So
well done. You should definitely take some. Don't be afraid to toot your own horn on that one. That's a big. Oh, and you think about even just listening to hearing the news, and hearing people talk about, number one, come back to work in general, but especially in the retail space, like that's a huge feather in your cap, man, that you've created an environment where people want to work and they stay, because in that retail space, it's a revolving door right now.
I think it goes back to the conversation we had about, moving from a corporate desk job to this kind of work where it's trying to make your work more meaningful. And I think that's really important. That's really important to me. And I think it's really important to the people that work for us too. Like, why am I doing this? And, when customers come in, like we've had customers sometimes that just call us, they just call us to tell us how great the thing was they bought. And
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
I was totally surprised by that. And we get reviews online, and I try to share those with our employees. Like, hey, people are really excited about what you're doing for them.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely a morale booster for sure. Well, and I'm looking over your right shoulder, and there's Simon Sinek's Start With Why. That's I just right when you said that, I think now I'm not going to get your verbiage correct, but I think that's the importance of why you do something is something that we should be hollering back to our previous employers. Like, hey, this is important. Like if it's not important to them, help them find why it's important to them, or they're not going to stay.
Yeah. Well, your employees are your customers too.
Right.
To some degree.
Yeah. So how many employees are you up to now?
All in, counting full-time and part-time, I gotta add them up a sec.
Yeah, no problem.
9.
Awesome. And the business is almost 4 years old?
2.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, what am I doing here?
Well, it's been a business in my mind for 4 or 5.
There you go. Yes, but doors actually opened in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right on. That's right. I think first time we talked, I was short, and then now this time I'm like 2 years long.
That's actually I don't know if you want to talk about it, but an interesting segue to another story was that
Please.
the building that we're in,
Oh, yeah.
we bought at the end of 2019, right? And then it was needed to be completely gutted and redone. And so then the pandemic came
Right.
along and we're like,
Oh, no.
oh man. And that was one time when, my dad, the encourager, he's like, are you still going to do this? And I'm like, Dad, that's not.
You're the eternal optimist.
Yeah,
like, I need you right
yeah,
now.
right. But anyway, we're contemplating this, and we're going one night. My wife and I are at Target, and there's no beef in all of Target during the pandemic. And
Wow.
I'm like, wait a minute, something is wrong here. And that was just motivation. Like, this needs to be done.
Yeah.
This is another reason why we need to do this, because there's something wrong with our food system. And that's
100%.
That's been kind of a passion of mine too, is I like to read a lot, and I'm trying to mix in books on food. Right now I'm reading a book called Food Fix, and it's interesting. It's very revealing about some of the issues that people see with big food and big ag.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot there. That's
Yeah.
for sure. So this is still new. You're 2 years into this, but what has been your biggest success, or what are you the most proud of? And you may have already answered that with with your employees and the morale, but if there's something else, I'd love you to speak to that.
Just the amount of tension that we've gotten from outside. I mean, we've had, we've been in a lot of publications, been on Iowa Public TV. Just the attention that we've gotten, it wasn't attention that we went out and sought after. It came to us, and just even with our commercial clients now, the restaurants that we're doing business with, we're just starting to launch another program where we're doing some co-packing for some other brands.
Okay.
And all of these entities really have come to us, and it's just been all organic growth. And I think I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
I thought, we were going to be just a little retail butcher shop, but I think there's even a bigger need for those types of things than I had anticipated early on.
Yeah, that's cool. And just the way that that's awesome. The attention that you're getting, and I see the stuff on the social media as well. The people that are coming out and like, I didn't know this was here, or I didn't know how much better the meat was going to be here than it is at XYZ. So yeah, that's cool. So flip that on its head a little bit. What has been the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome, or problem, that you had to face, and how'd you do that?
The business that we're in is highly, highly regulated. So you're just dealing with regulations all the time, meeting, the food code. And now we are just recently, as of this week, transitioned from the Iowa Department of Inspection and Appeals, which is the agency that inspects like grocery stores and restaurants, to the Iowa Department of Agriculture, that inspects a lot of the Iowa lockers and plants. And that allows us to do more products, but we have to meet all of their requirements. And there's lots and lots of documentation that we have to do every day. We have to do testing for pathogens. We have to keep constant monitoring of temperature controls, all those things, making sure we have the right equipment, the right setup.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and you just recently shifted from basically the retail to the ag. I mean, I know that's not what you said, but
Yeah.
kind of.
Yep. We had to do that because in order to, another thing that you have to do is you have to have HACCP plans in place. It's hazardous analysis critical control points, which means that you identify things that could go wrong, and you have a plan in place to prevent those things from going wrong. And that's really what the Department of Agriculture does. They have more strict requirements for that, and that then allows you to have a broader customer base. So then, like under Iowa Inspection Appeals, you can't sell the products you make to other retailers. but under Department of Agriculture now we can. So we
Okay.
could create a product and we could wholesale it for someone else to sell for us.
Interesting.
So it opens up the opportunity for more business for us, especially as we get into, what I call the co-packing. That's where we're making a product for somebody else who sells it under their brand.
Yeah, very cool. I'm gonna give a shout out to a guest from 2 episodes ago, Tafik Shah,
Yeah.
from Lola's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think is it? They
Yeah.
have your stuff in your
Yeah.
shop. Yeah.
We sell their hot sauces and their salsa.
Right. Well, that's one thing that he's navigated those roads quite a bit. So I don't know how often you talk with him, but he might be a good one to circle the wagons on as you start exploring that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, it popped into my head, right? So what? I mean, I'm guessing you have some 5 and 10 year types of plans, and obviously you don't need to unroll that whole thing out for us. But what's a goal or even a dream that you haven't achieved yet with the business?
I would like one of our original goals was to be nearly 100% of locally sourced product. So that's the interesting thing that a lot of people don't understand is when you buy a whole beef, right? You get probably 300 pounds of ground beef on it, but you maybe get 10 pounds of filet mignon, right?
Sure.
So, and we sell a lot of filet mignon. So we have to find the avenues to sell that amount of ground beef in order to buy enough cows to meet our needs on the filet mignon. So it's something we have to grow into. So we do supplement our selection a little bit with what we call boxed meat, but we try to keep it local. So like our beef comes from Upper Iowa beef in Lime Springs, Iowa. So it's still mostly Iowa cattle through a small regional plant, but we would like to one day I don't know if we'll ever be 100% locally sourced meat, but as close to it as we can get.
And this might go further down a path than the listeners care for, but out of my own curiosity, how would you envision being able to use that much hamburger in order to make that work? I mean, what kind of avenues are you starting to explore in that vein?
That's kind of the fun piece for me is like being an entrepreneur. I think you're a natural problem solver.
Sure. Yeah.
And so this is the fun strategic thinking that I enjoy. And so that's where we in the past, we have worked with some burger joints before, but, then we're dependent on somebody else. So like right now, we're starting to establish some of our own cooked and cured products like beef snack sticks, beef bologna, beef summer sausage. So we could start to make that product. That all uses that meat that you would normally make into like hamburger.
Yeah.
And start to create a brand for ourselves, and then hopefully have other retailers sell those products for us.
Bingo.
So then we can start to move a lot more of that ground product, and then we're able to sell more of just what I call the middle meats, the ribeyes and strips and fillets through our retail counter in the shop.
Yeah, I'll put a plug in since I already did it on the ribeye and the cowboy steak. We also had some beef sticks, and they are phenomenal as well.
Thanks.
when I compare them to some others that you can buy at, say, local retailers, I would definitely put them a step above the rest.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely good stuff. So, Nick, you're still fairly still new in this venture. I mean, you've taken more steps than a lot of people who I would say, are kind of out there chasing their dreams, but you're also, 2 years into this. And so I think your perspective on this next question will be kind of interesting. What would you say to someone who is, well, kind of 2 parts, and you pick one or both to answer. What would you say to somebody who is trying to figure out what their passion is? Or what would you say to somebody that's, going down that road, but they've kind of found themselves at an impasse, or they're stuck and don't know what their next step is? What kind of advice would you have for one or both of those people?
The first question is, I think your passion can come just from a flicker, not from a red hot flame, right? Like as you dig into it and find out other things that are related to it. That's the thing that I've learned in this is you have a very narrow focus when you start. And then once you get in it and start to understand the business, and you're like, whoa, look at all these other things that are interconnected. And I can choose any one of those paths to go down. We started at, like I mentioned, we started as just thinking we were going to be a retail. Well, now we cater to restaurants,
Right.
and we're doing these co-packing for other brands. And that gets even more exciting. You're like, hey, there's more need out there than we really thought. And we're doing more for more people. So yeah, just if there's like a little flicker there, pursue that a little bit and look into it. And maybe you have to do like a test run on a small, like if you are a baker, like you find a certified kitchen somewhere and just start making some stuff for a while and going to farmers markets and selling it. And you're going to learn a lot from that.
Right.
Just the people you bump into, maybe at that certified kitchen who are making other things, or the customer base that you're serving. And it could lead you down a related path, and it could really inspire greater passion there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the other question?
So the other one would be, somebody that's kind of started down that path, but is stuck, or, came to a fork in the road and doesn't know which way to go to get, make it a story.
Yeah.
But somebody that's stuck, in chasing what they think they're supposed to be going after.
Yeah. So thinking about just our 2 years in businesses, man, we've run into so many challenges so far, just hundreds of varying degrees of challenges. And I keep telling my team, I'm like, this is what separates the really good people from the rest, is our ability to solve these problems and figure out these challenges. That determines whether we're successful or not, right?
Yeah.
And so you can't give up on those challenges or those bad times. I mean, that's going to be what defines you.
Yeah.
So you got to push through them, and that's the part you have to figure out as an entrepreneur and someone who wants to have a successful business.
Yeah, that's great. That's great insight. I think, the CEO of the organization that I work with now, college, fellow Central college person, just all the little circles that are a part of this. But he always says we do the hard things, and going into Haiti and having a mission there is definitely a hard thing. But
Right.
I heard that, not verbatim, but I kind of heard that in your answer there. It's like, hey, sometimes you have to just dig in. Sometimes it is brain power and figuring things out, but sometimes it's just, hey, here's the hard thing that I have to do today in order to keep this ball moving forward.
My dad always tells us, like, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I think of your dad has always been somebody who has, I just see as a positive force in the world. And I remember as a kid going into the clothing store, and I'm sure throughout my day there was other entrepreneurs, but I remember like always having an admiration for your dad because like he was doing this thing, and that was cool to me even as a kid shopping in a clothing store.
I bet that was exciting as a kid. Go and buy your church clothes.
Exactly. Go buy your church clothes here. No, but I remember, like your dad, I remember like he was always so friendly when you walked in the door of the store, and that even as a kid, made an impact on me.
And I think maybe I wouldn't be doing this if I hadn't had that example. And then that's what I'm trying to, carry on, hopefully with my kids.
With
Not
your
that
kids.
they'll be an entrepreneur by any means, but like they'll go try hard stuff.
Those are huge life skills.
Yeah.
Whether they choose to start their own business or not, like that prepares them to be successful in corporate America if they choose that path, or something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So shift a little bit. I'm sitting with you in your office, and I see some books. So I know you at least display them like you've read them. I like to, now in this world of Zoom, so many people set up with, their huge bookshelf behind them. And me, the cynic, I'm working on this. I promise I am. But I'm like, how many of those have you actually read? You got 300 books behind you right now. Have you actually read all those?
I'm pretty sure I've read most of these.
Yeah.
The stack on the top, those are the ones that I've attempted to read, but they're just too boring.
You're like, I cannot do this one.
Yeah.
All right. So what, and I always fumble this question like almost every episode, but I love to ask it. What are your 3 favorite books? Do you have books that you would recommend to somebody that is, kind of on this entrepreneurial or pursue your passion path? You can do one or the other or a mix of the two.
I might have to look at my
You're
my
like,
books over
"Yeah, I
here.
gotta look at my books real quick.
I'm thinking of one. I forget the author, but it's I think the title of it is "If You Want to Walk on Water, You Got to Get Out of the Boat."
Oh, okay.
I can't remember the author.
That's all right.
It's a Christian living book about just trusting in God, and I'm a believer, and
Yeah.
that's been a big piece again of this. One of those those health check type things was my spiritual life, and it's just like when you are running a business, you're like, wow, there's so many things outside of my control that you have to be dependent on a higher power, and you just have to trust.
Yeah.
And that's been a big one to
That's
me.
awesome.
Yeah.
So Nick, the book that you had mentioned was if you want to walk on water, you've got to get out of the boat. So you got the title right, and John Ortberg. So there you go. So that's definitely one you would recommend, and I obviously we share the same beliefs on that, and I that's definitely one that I'm going to add to my list.
Sure. The other one is Dopamine Nation by Anna Lemke.
Have
you heard of this one?
I have heard about it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's just kind of about how we, as humans, we are just, seeking the gratification that we get from the chemicals in our body, and we just do things that are not. It's like the rat, that's in the test lab that can get the drugs in its water, right? And that just keeps going after that water till it kills itself.
Right.
And it kind of talks about that and how we counter that. And I think we all struggle with that on some level, and whether we realize it or not, it was kind of eye-opening to me, and just how we can, this goes back to another good book that I would recommend is the 5 a.m. Club. Yeah. And I kind of paired Dopamine Nation with 5 a.m. Club. Like, in Dopamine Nation, like one way to counter that is like one, maybe you've heard of like the cold shower mornings. You heard of this?
Yeah. I haven't done it because it really freaks me out, and I hate cold showers. Yeah. But maybe I need to try it. Are you a cold shower person?
No, but I tried it, and like I thought I was gonna die in the shower. I tried it 2 mornings, and I'm like, this is not gonna work. I gotta find something else, and that's where I found the weightlifting is kind of like the same thing. It's like you're kind of putting your body under pressure.
Yeah. Like
wake up, shock, you're going to lift, right? And it's kind of the same thing. And you kind of get a little bit of a positive adrenaline rush post workout.
Yeah.
I can tolerate that. I can do that. I still hate it. Like I get up in the morning and I usually stand in front of the weight set and stare at it for 10 minutes and be like, am I going to do this? I really want to go back to bed. But I do it, and it does feel good. But the cold shower thing, there's other practices like that you can do, but I couldn't do the cold shower.
So 5 a.m. Club is on my reading list that I haven't gotten to yet. But one other guest had talked about the cold shower. One question that I have, since you've read the book, is the idea that your whole shower is cold, or do you like wash yourself in warm water and then shock yourself at the end?
I think it was like you have to have a certain period of time that's cold.
That's cold.
I think it's like 2 minutes or something like that to get the full benefit.
Right.
But there's even people thinking about in dopamine nation. Like there's some people that even go too far with that.
Oh,
like,
sure.
They get like these tubs and they fill them with ice.
Right.
Like going to, what do you call that?
Hypothermia.
Yeah. Like
I remember I did an ice bath after I ran a half marathon because my legs hurt so bad. But even that, I was like, this is awful. Like I can't imagine this is going to make me feel the pain that I'm in right now. I don't know that it's going to give me the reward that I'm hoping for afterwards from not having sore muscles.
Yeah. So bottom line is like, there's other alternatives, I think, to the cold shower, but the idea is the same.
Right. Awesome. No, those are all, I have heard of that book. I don't know that it's been a recommendation. I have not heard of this one. So I love that. And then the 5 a.m. Club, that's kind of one that, goes around in entrepreneurial circles. But like I said, it's been on my list and I haven't gotten to it yet. So that'll probably bump that one up a little further. You mentioned, now that's 3. Now I'm just gonna, you mentioned that you started kind of focusing on, food books as well, which I'm sure that's probably a little bit of a niche market. But if you were going to recommend, and maybe it's the one that you mentioned a few minutes ago, but if you were going to recommend one to somebody that wanted to learn about the food industry, or maybe I shouldn't even make it that specific. Like what's been your favorite book on food?
Well, I think this is a little bit biased just because of the business in mind, but I would recommend Sacred Cow.
Okay.
It's kind of turning what we very recently thought about food on its head. Like very recently, we've seen this. Well, like back in the 50s and 60s, it was like, no fat, get rid of fat. And
Yeah.
now we're learning, well, that's not right. Actually, we need fat. And then we've seen this movement towards, we got to get rid of red meat, and we got to eat the Impossible Burger. Well, and that's been very short lived, and I really feel that is coming to an end here. And Sacred Cow, it talks about how actually livestock are very critical to not only our health but to our environment, but just the way that we're doing it through factory farming is being harmful to the animals, ourselves, and our environment. But there's a better way to do it, but we very much do need those animals as part of our nutrition and as part of our environment and in our ecosystem.
Interesting. Yeah, I would find that intriguing as well. Yeah, awesome.
If you're not a reader, it's on it's on Amazon Prime as well.
Perfect.
As a video.
I do have as a video.
Yeah.
You said Amazon Prime, and I immediately went
video
audiobook. But
it might be on some other media
like a
outlets
movie,
too.
or documentary. Yeah, I'm a big audiobook guy. I like to listen to them in my car. Yeah. So that's my brain went immediately to Audible, not Amazon.
Maybe, I don't know
Prime.
about that, but I know there's video in the book. So
Right on. Nick, I really appreciate your time. This is I love the store, what you're doing there, and I love the fact that you're finding success in it. Wish you continued success. Now, if the listeners want to get in touch with you or find out more about the store, what's the best way? Social media, website, all of the above?
Yeah, probably just the go-to is our website. It's oldstationcraftmeats.com. From there, you can get my email, my phone number. You can also, we have links to our Facebook and Instagram accounts as well.
Awesome. Very cool. Nick, thanks again for being on the show.
This was fun.
Hopefully some of the local folks will come and check you out, and others can check you out when they're in Central Iowa.
Sure.
Awesome.
Hey, thanks, Tyler.
Absolutely. Everybody, thanks again, as always, for being along on the ride. Going to put a plug in for the website, my own. If you want to learn more about the journey, please go to tylerkammerman.com. And I would also encourage you to just go back and check out some of the episodes that you might have missed. We've got a wide variety of guests that have been on the show, all sharing about how they are pursuing their passions. And one more favor I would have, if you haven't already, go in and rate and review the show. It's going to help other people, like-minded people like yourself, to find this show and hopefully, get some great benefit out of it like you are. Keep chasing those passions, pursuing those passions. This is probably the way I should go. And we'll talk again soon.
If you have questions or would like to contact us, please check out the show details for contact information. Thanks for listening to the Pursue Your Passion podcast.